An unexpected scene has shaken millions of fans around the world. Jungkook, the youngest vocalist of BTS, was caught on camera sobbing uncontrollably in Taehyung's arms on the very day of his return from military service. In an instant, what was supposed to be a moment of pride turned into a sea of tears, unheard whispers, and an embrace that seemed to carry an invisible burden. What really happened behind this moment? Why did Jungkook cry so deeply? And why was it only Taehyung's presence that could trigger such an emotional outburst? Taehyung's presence at Jungkook's discharge ceremony was something no one predicted, not even the most vigilant media. No announcement, no news, no hint. He appeared silently, slipping through the crowd, until he stood before Jungkook, who immediately seemed to lose control. Jungkook's eyes widened, his body trembled, and then he collapsed into Taehyung's embrace like a child finally returning home after a long storm. This wasn't just a meeting between two friends. This was an emotional climax that was both unexpected and deeply lasting. The first few seconds of the hug were so silent, as if the world stopped. Then came sobs, soft but real. Jungkook cried loudly, his breath catching. The hug was not released for nearly 2 minutes. Taehyung held on tightly, saying little, just remaining still, and allowing his shoulder to be soaked with tears. Cameras at the scene failed to capture everything, but eyewitnesses reported that after a while, Taehyung was also seen wiping his eyes. Why did this moment feel so personal and unsettling? Many began to associate it with the pressure Jungkook endured during his service. As BTS's Magne, Jungkook was not only a symbol of South Korea's youth resilience, but also the bearer of hopes from the agency, peers, and fans. That burden, as observers often mention, can become too heavy for anyone, even someone as strong as him. Speculation began surfacing from all directions. Some fans, trying to lip-read, claimed that Taehyung whispered, "I'm here now. I'm not going away again." That simple yet meaningful sentence immediately sparked theories about an emotional distance that might have existed between the two. Did something happen during military service that strained their bond? Is this a sign of reconciliation after a tension that was never voiced? Moreover, Taehyung's sudden appearance after being unseen with Jungkook for so long also raised eyebrows. They were known to be very close since trainee days. However, in recent months, they were rarely seen interacting directly. Many believed it was due to differing military schedules. But after this emotional eruption, those assumptions started to falter. Some now believe something happened behind the scenes that the public never knew. What made things more complex was a sentence Jungkook allegedly whispered right before the hug ended. Why now? Simple, yet profound. This line implies that there were moments in the past when Taehyung's presence was needed, but he wasn't there. Is this about being late? About old wounds that weren't healed? About promises left unkept? Public communication analyst Kang Do-hyun stated that this wasn't a moment that could be staged. Too raw, too human. This is not fan service. This is a long-restrained human moment. He added that Jungkook's tears expressed something far greater than a reunion, perhaps cumulative pressure, a loss of direction, or even deep loneliness. Many also began linking the moment to BTS's future. With most members now undergoing or finishing military service, speculation about the group's continuation is growing. Is this hug a symbol of unity, or a sign that internal wounds must heal before they return as one? Of course, all of this remains in the realm of speculation. But one thing is certain, no one can fake tears like that. No one can be told to cry like that under camera flashes. That was a cry from the heart, something real, and something that left a mark. Now, as the public awaits statements and the agency remains silent, one question continues to echo. What really happened that day? What has Jungkook been carrying all this time that could only be released in Taehyung's arms? Is this the beginning of something new, or the end of a chapter that was never closed? Until these questions are answered, all that remains is that moment. Two figures in the midst of a crowd, holding each other, crying in silence, as the world watched with bated breath. And for many, that moment alone was enough to shake the heart. Did Jungkook really cry in Taehyung's arms? Let's take a closer look after the uproar about Jungkook sobbing in Taehyung's arms. A wave of emotion, empathy, and skepticism flooded the online space. Hashtags bearing both their names once again dominated global trends. But behind the sentiment that touched millions of fans' hearts, another important question arose. Did all of this really happen as reported? Or are we witnessing a narrative crafted to stir emotion and command attention? We all want to believe the moment was genuine, that Jungkook's tears reflected inner turmoil finally released. But let's reflect. What if what we saw was a construction? What if the circulating videos, snippets of speech, and widely spread emotional narratives were merely fragments of an incomplete script, or worse, manipulated? Are you sure the video was real? The sources we used to write this article varied, from fan uploads on TikTok, unofficial YouTube footage, to speculative clips from Twitter and other online media. However, none of these sources have full validation of their authenticity. No official release from any party. No independent journalist confirmed the full context. So how can we truly believe those tears were real, and not just an interpretation of what a camera caught at an emotional moment? What drives us to believe so easily? Is it because we want to believe? Because the story of two friends reuniting after a long time resonates with human nature? Or because we've become too familiar with dramatic narratives wrapped beautifully by social media algorithms? This reflection matters. In today's digital era, anyone can be a news bearer. Everyone with a phone can become an eyewitness. But do these eyewitnesses truly understand the context? Or are they merely capturing a tiny fragment of a much more complex event, then interpreting it however they wish? Are we being manipulated by sensationalism? It's undeniable that South Korea's entertainment industry tends to maximize public attention through emotional narratives. From stories of mental exhaustion to time-tested friendships, all are sold in dramatic and touching packages. We get swept away, caught in emotion, and forget one thing: verification. Who benefits from this moment going viral? We must ask, was this purely coincidence, or part of a strategy designed to evoke sympathy and restore emotional ties between artists and fans after a long hiatus? If so, how far is the entertainment world willing to go in creating artificial realities just to maintain its relevance? There's nothing wrong with loving idols, but it becomes dangerous when that love turns into blind trust that rejects critical thinking. Are we, as the audience, still able to distinguish between reality and fabrication? Or are we so immersed in euphoria that we forget to question its truth? We must also consider the fact that social media is now driven by algorithms that amplify extreme emotions. The most emotional, controversial, or touching content rises to the top of searches. Is it possible we're only seeing what the algorithm wants us to see? Are we being deceived by a digital pattern designed to boost engagement, not truth? Have you ever verified the source of the video you watched? Have you traced who uploaded it first, where, and when it was taken, or what the context was? Or did you instantly believe the caption just because it looked convincing and went viral? We're not claiming this is a hoax, but we also cannot confirm it's entirely true. The information spread too fast, too wildly, and is full of interpretations that may not be accurate. In such a situation, do we still have the courage to ask, is this really real? Why are we so quick to believe when a story touches our hearts? Is it because we crave drama and emotion? Or because our own lives are too quiet that we're willing to become part of someone else's drama? These questions aren't meant to blame anyone, but to awaken collective awareness that as an audience, we have a responsibility not just to absorb, but to process every piece of information. We are not only viewers, but participants in spreading the news. Every share, comment, like, all strengthen or weaken certain narratives, SO at the end of this article. We invite you to reflect. Are you sure you've known the truth? Or do you believe simply because you want to believe? We invite you to discuss, rethink, and not hesitate to question everything. True truth never fears being tested. And if this story is real, it will endure even under doubt. But if it turns out to be a well-crafted